everyone. Good afternoon, barely afternoon, and good weekend. It is the end of school vacation week, so yay for us. I'm sure boo for your students, but we survived. We made it through, and I've actually managed to go live more than I have in over a year in this past week. So anyway, hi, welcome. My name is Nissa Gatcomb. I'm the owner of Magic of Paws, and I am also our head trainer. Let me know if you're watching. Say hi. Let me know who your pets are, especially I happen to know client pets better than client names. So sorry about that. But anyway, just when you pop on, even if you're watching the replay, let me know that you're here in the comments so we can say hi. Today we're going to talk about puppy house training because that's one of the biggest questions and concerns, complaints that we get here on a regular basis with new puppy owners. So I wanted to pop in with some general good basic tips, some best practices, and then answer any questions you might have in particular about potty training your specific dog, whether it's a puppy or sometimes even adult dogs need some help with this. Let's get started. So we'll start with what is house training. House training is basically teaching a dog where it is good to go and where it is not so great to go, and setting up a system for them to tell us that they need to go outside or they need to go potty. Not everybody chooses to go outside with their pups. That's okay, especially here in New England where we have really gross winters and sometimes dogs don't want to go out. So sometimes people teach their pets to potty pads or like grass pads. I'm going to, for the purposes of this video, be talking about taking them outside because that's what the majority of people do. But if you're planning on house training for inside, just take that same knowledge and apply it to the specific spot that you're planning on having your pups go, whether it's a potty pads, pee pads, or if you have like a fancy grass mat set up for them. So bear that in mind when we're talking. When I say outside, I mean wherever it is that you want your pup to go. So the most important thing with all dog training is to set our dogs up for success. The more times they succeed, the faster they'll learn. The more times they fail, the more setbacks you're going to have. The more steps backwards, the harder it is for them going to be to understand that whole concept. So to ensure that, you want to make sure that when you are not able to supervise your puppy, they need to be confined. So between their potty breaks, you need to have eyes on them, or they need to be in their crate, or with a tether, or just within sight. You want to make sure that you're keeping them in your field of view, or they're in a crate. So some people use play pens, exercise pens. Some people use a tether. Some people just have the leash and tie it around a piece of furniture wherever they are. Totally up to you what you're doing. But the point is that you need to either have eyes on your pup or they need to be in a crate. That's so that you can set them up for success and reduce the chances of them having accidents. So puppies start to develop their surface preferences around 8 weeks old. So it's important to expose your puppy to the appropriate surfaces that you want them going on and reward for eliminating there as soon as possible. Not that dogs can't learn to use different surfaces at different points in their life. They're going to just have a preferential surface by 8 weeks old. So if you're bringing your puppy home at 8 weeks old and they've only ever been on potty pads and you don't want to use potty pads, you want to make sure that you're exposing them to the grass from day one and rewarding and praising from when they go out there. Whereas if you or vice versa, they've only ever been on grass, you want to expose them to potty pads. You want to just make sure you're starting that introduction really early. It should also be a consideration when you're looking at a puppy to either adopt or purchase. If you are looking at a breeder and you want your dog to exclusively go outside, if the 6, 7, 8-week-old puppies are still being kept almost entirely inside on potty pads or newspapers, you probably don't want to go with that breeder. You want to go with a breeder that's giving them outside time so that they can get used to the feel of grass and gravel under their feet, and vice versa. So it's really important when you're looking at a breeder or you're looking at a shelter rescue that you find out what their protocol is for how they keep their young puppies, about 6 to 8 weeks old, to see what preferences they are already going to have and how hard you're going to have to work to combat them. So if you can find a breeder that you know, you like, you trust, that follows all of the health testing that you need, and also exposes them to the surface you want your dogs to go potty on, that's a win. It's going to save you a lot of time, as opposed to finding a breeder that does things the opposite of how you want your dogs to handle their elimination needs. So one of the questions we get most often is, how long can a puppy hold it? And there's a general rule of thumb that puppies can hold it for their age in months plus 1, and that equals the number of hours between their potty breaks. So if they're 2 months old, so 2 plus 1 equals 3 hours. So, and that's generally true up until about 6 months old. After that point, they start to have better control of their bladders and can go a little bit longer if needed. And they can always go a little bit longer in the evening, but I wouldn't bet the farm on it that they're going to be able to hold for, if they're 2 months old so they can hold it for 3 hours, I wouldn't assume that your puppy can hold it all 8 hours while you're asleep. You're going to want to wake up in the middle of the night, because either they'll wake you up, or if you can wake up proactively and take them out, that can help a better flow to your sleep cycle. But in general, that's the rule. Is their age in months plus 1 equals the total number of hours they can hold it. This all making sense? Drop any questions you have in the comments and I'll answer them as they come through. So let's move on to some best practices for the actual training. And the most important thing is to stick to a schedule. Puppies should be taken out at some very specific times, and I'm going to list them all for you. There's about 6 that I tell people to bear in mind. So as soon as you come home, regardless of how long you've been out, whether it's been for 15 minutes to run to the corner store, or you've been gone for 3 hours doing grocery shopping and errands, as soon as you get home, take your pup out immediately, out to their potty place. Whenever they wake up, including from naps, again, instantly out as quick as you can. About 15 to 30 minutes after eating or drinking is another great time to get them out. Puppies' bodies can't hold a ton of stuff in their digestive system. So if they're taking something in, chances are within 15 to 30 minutes, something's gonna need to come out to make room for it. So you want to take them out a few times throughout the night, depending on their age. So if they're 2 months old, taking them out every 3 or 4 hours, and slowly building up that time. Then you also want to take them out immediately after give you any warning signs, which we'll go over in a bit, some warning signs to look for. And also shortly after playing, or anytime your puppy disengages from you. So if you're interacting with your puppy and they stop and go and do something else, put a leash on them, take them outside as quick as you can. So those are the key times that I tell people to look out for. So as soon as you get home, whenever they wake up, after eating and drinking, a few times throughout the night, whenever you see a warning sign, and immediately after they stop playing or your dog disengages from you. So let's go over those warning signs. Warning signs vary from dog to dog. Not every dog's going to give the same warning signs, but in general, they're going to be things like whining, pacing, barking, circling, sniffing at the floor, getting zoomies, or stopping whatever they're doing in the middle of an activity. That disengagement. So if they're chewing on their bone and then all of a sudden stop, that's a sign that they probably need to go out. So go ahead, clip them on, take them outside. So for a very young puppy, you're going to have the most success if you just pick them up and carry them out to wherever their potty spot is going to be. The reason for that is that they're wiggly, they don't walk very fast, and chances are if you put a leash on them and start to walk them out of the house to get to their spot, they're going to eliminate before you get there. So picking them up and carrying them is going to be your best way to make sure that you get to the potty spot in time every time. As they get older, you can go ahead, clip a lead to them, and take them out really quick. So what do you do when it's actually time for them to go out? We've talked about when they should go out, how often, what the warning signs are, but let's go over what you should actually be doing to make sure that they're having the most success. So you want to make sure that you take your dog out on a leash at first, even in the yard. This is to prevent them from wandering about and to keep them focused on the task at hand. So you're going to take them over to your desired potty spot, and you're going to wait for your dog to do their business. You can also give them a cue if you want, like go potty or do your business or whatever it is. That's totally optional. Most people don't, but it is something that you can do, is give them a verbal cue. As soon as your dog is finished, like the last drop of pee is out of them, they've straightened up from going poo, you're going to mark it with yes, and then give them a treat if you have any on them. If you have any on you. Some dogs, it gets a little overwhelming if you bring treats out with you for potty breaks, and that's totally fine. But the most important thing you're going to want to do is avoid marking or rewarding what they're doing while they're in the process of going potty. This can distract them and make it so that they, only stop halfway, and then they still got more to go, but they stopped because you praised them. So that means like a cookie's coming or playtime. I also really encourage people that after you've praised them for finishing and you've optionally given them a treat, that you go for a walk or allow them to play and sniff in the area off leash, if it's safe, before you head back in. This way, your dog learns that the going outside and the fun doesn't end as soon as they're done going potty. That way, they'll learn to get their business done faster, as opposed to assuming that as soon as I finish, we go back inside and putting off as long as possible. If your dog does not go within about 5 minutes of being outside, put them back in their crate or another confined area and try again in about 15 minutes. And repeat the whole process. The more consistent you are with how you go through this, the faster they're going to learn. So making sure that you are taking them out on lead so that they can't get too distracted. I always encourage people, if you have a really excitable puppy who's not focused on the task of going potty, to kind of just stand there and act like a tree, like you're not even there until they finish their business. And that's when you break and engage with them. You want to make sure that they're really staying focused on doing what they're supposed to do, as opposed to using it as an opportunity to play and get excited, mainly for efficiency's sake as far as the training goes. Once they're fully house trained and they're asking to go out, they're doing what they need to do relatively quickly, you do not need to continue doing these potty training rules because they've got it. But while they're still learning, making sure that you focus on getting things done efficiently, completely eliminating whenever possible, and then having fun afterwards so that they are a little bit quicker about going on it. Because the first rainy day or the first sub-zero day, you're going to be kicking yourself that you didn't emphasize efficiency when doing your potty training. Now, if your puppy has an accident and goes to the bathroom inside, do not punish them. I'm going to repeat that. Do not punish your dog for going inside. Don't show them what they did. Don't reprimand them in any way. This will only make your dog afraid to eliminate in front of you. And it will actually increase the frequency of incidents inside. So, no punishment. And if you don't catch them in the act, it's too late anyway. They're not going to remember the cause and effect. There's about 0.7 seconds between when something happens and a reward or a punishment for a dog to be able to make that connection. So if it's been 15 minutes and you're just finding a piddle pile, you're going to be completely wasting your time to point it out to your dog and punish them. It's not going to make any connections in their head. Instead, it's going to make it, the connection is going to be when mom finds the piddle puddle, that's when I get in trouble. So I better make sure mom never finds the piddle puddle. Is that making sense to everybody? So if you do catch your dog having an accident inside, what you want to do is interrupt and whisk them outside as quickly as possible. They may or may not finish. You interrupted them partway through. Can you imagine if somebody came in while you were sitting on the toilet and picked you up and carried you to a different toilet? It's going to throw you off. So they may not finish, and that's okay. You're just going to follow the same steps that we talked about earlier, bringing them back inside, putting them in their crate, and then taking them out again about 15 minutes later. But if they even get just one drop of pee outside, you're going to go ahead and say yes and have your potty party, whether that's you just get excited and you dance with them or you give them treats, whatever works for your individual dog, you party it up when they do go outside, even if they started inside. You also want to make sure that when you go inside, that you're cleaning up the messes, not just with a paper towel and some water, but you want to use an enzymatic cleaner. And there's a variety of these on the market. Some work better than others. Some people prefer the scents of some to others. The important thing is that it's enzymatic. And the reason for that is that it breaks down the urine or the poop on a molecular level. And that makes it harder for the dogs to smell it and makes it less likely for them to continue going in that same spot. Dogs like to go in the same area repeatedly. So if they can still smell where they went before, they're going to want to go to that preferred spot as opposed to going to some place that smells like nobody. So you want to make sure that you're using an enzymatic cleaner of some kind. Almost every brand of dog cleaner has an enzymatic formula. The most common one people use is Nature's Miracle, but there's also Scout's Honor. I know Resolve has one as well. Like pretty much any brand of pet cleaner is going to have an enzymatic formula. And I highly recommend that you invest in that in general, because it also is good for picking up, helping clear up the smells and stains from vomit or blood, anything like that, any accidents, like health accidents that might happen to your house, as well as potty accidents that might happen in your house. I always have a bottle on hand just in case. I've also used it on my own stuff. Like if I've gotten cut and gotten a blood stain on my clothing, I pre-treat it with Nature's Miracle as opposed to pre-treating it with normal laundry stuff, just because I find it works better. But it's totally up to you which brand and what product you use. Just make sure that it's going to actually do the job. So that's been a lot of rambling about potty training. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'll come back and answer them, even if you're watching the replay. So go ahead and drop those questions you have, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good one.